Euphoria Season 3, Episode 7 has just been released, and it features some very shocking twists. This is the episode where the weather turns and there is no shelter left for anyone. Rue gets pulled deeper into something she cannot walk back from. Cassie gets handed the opportunity she has always wanted and the price tag that comes with it. Nate is fighting a battle that is already lost before it begins. And Jules is being asked to create something real for the first time in a long time, which might be the most terrifying thing happening to anyone this episode. Rain or shine. No more hiding, let's get into it. Let's begin with Rue, because her situation in Euphoria Season 3, Episode 7 is the one that carries the most immediate danger and the most impossible set of choices. And the official synopsis makes it very clear that things are about to get significantly more complicated for her. The synopsis tells us that Rue is offered a risky deal that draws her deeper into Alamo's world. And when you stop and think about what that actually means, given everything that has happened up to this point in the season, it is genuinely difficult to overstate how precarious that is. Because Rue is not entering Episode 7 from a position of strength or clarity. She is entering it as somebody who survived something that should have ended her. After what Alamo did at the end of Episode 5, after being buried to her neck in the middle of nowhere with a man on horseback bearing down on her with a mallet, the fact that she is still alive at all says something. But surviving something like that does not mean you come out of it the same person, and it does not mean the danger has passed. It means the danger has simply shifted into a new shape. The deal that Alamo is offering her in Episode 7 is the part that demands the most careful thinking, because the word risky in that synopsis is doing a lot of work. Everything in Alamo's world is risky, by definition. The fact that this particular deal is being described as risky, even by the standards of that world, means it is something extreme. Something that goes further than what Rue has already been doing. Something that pushes her into territory she has not yet crossed into. And here is the thing that makes that so devastating when you look at it from Rue's perspective. She cannot say no. She has no leverage. She survived, but surviving on Alamo's terms is not the same as being free. It is being placed in a different kind of debt, a different kind of obligation. And the DEA is still there, still watching, still waiting for Rue to deliver what they need. So she is being pulled deeper by Alamo on one side, and she is still tethered to the agents on the other side. And the gap between those two forces is getting smaller with every episode. In Euphoria Season 3, Episode 7, I think we are going to see Rue at the point where she finally understands, in a way she has been avoiding understanding, that there is no version of this that ends with her walking away clean. Every step she takes in either direction is a step towards something irreversible. And the question the episode is going to raise, the one I don't think it is going to answer yet, is whether Rue is capable of making a choice that is genuinely her own when she has been operating from survival instinct for so long that she may have forgotten what that even feels like. There is something else worth sitting with when it comes to Rue in this episode, which is the emotional weight of what she is carrying beyond just the physical danger. She watched an innocent man get punished for something she was actually responsible for. She has been lying to every person in her life simultaneously, running two completely separate versions of herself. And the cost of maintaining that kind of double existence is not just strategic, it is psychological. It wears on you. It fragments you. And Rue already had a fragmented sense of self long before any of this started. The addiction, the grief, the relationship with Jules, all of it created cracks in her long before Alamo and the DEA entered the picture. What Episode 7 feels like it is setting up is the moment where those cracks become something that cannot be held together anymore. Where the version of Rue that has been holding it all in place simply stops being able to hold. And the deal Alamo is offering her, whatever it specifically involves, is going to be the thing that tips the balance. Then there is Cassie, and Euphoria Season 3, Episode 7 looks like it is going to be one of the most pivotal episodes of the entire season for her storyline, because the synopsis tells us that Maddie is going to give her a mission that could skyrocket her career. And on the surface, that sounds like an opportunity, like something Cassie should be grateful for, like the next step in the trajectory that has been building since she started her account and gained 50,000 followers almost overnight. But the more you think about what skyrocket actually means in the context of where Cassie's story has been going, the more complicated and genuinely unsettling it becomes. Because skyrocketing in this world, in the world that Brandon and Maddie and the entire online ecosystem around Cassie operates in, does not mean becoming more of yourself. It means becoming more of the image. It means going further, pushing harder, giving more of yourself to an audience that has no loyalty to you as a person, and infinite appetite for the version of you that they have decided they want to consume. Cassie said it herself in an earlier episode, "For my fans, I'll do anything." That line landed like a threat to herself more than a promise to them. And now, in episode 7, that sentiment is going to be tested in a concrete way. What makes Maddie's role in this so layered is that she is not a villain in Cassie's story. She is not somebody who is trying to deliberately destroy Cassie, or who does not care about her at all. The history between those two women is real and complicated and full of genuine feeling on both sides. But Maddie is also somebody who has found her own sense of purpose and identity inside the machine she is helping to build. And that means she has a vested interest in keeping the machine running, in keeping Cassie moving forward, even when moving forward might not be what Cassie actually needs. The mission she gives Cassie in episode 7 is going to feel like support on the surface, like a friend pushing you toward your dream. But underneath it, there will be something more complicated happening. There always is in this show. And I think Cassie, who is still not fully awake to the reality of what she has traded away in order to get where she is going to accept whatever is being offered without fully processing the cost. Because that is what Cassie does. She moves toward what feels like being seen without asking whether what she is being seen as is actually her. The piece of the Cassie storyline that I find the most quietly devastating in episode 7 is the context around it, which is the fact that while Cassie is being handed what could be the biggest moment of her career, Nate is simultaneously fighting to hold on to something that is already slipping through his fingers. That is such a specific and painful kind of irony, because these two people were married. They were supposed to be building something together. And now the distance between where Cassie is going and where Nate is standing is so vast that it almost does not feel like they ever existed in the same world. Cassie does not need Nate anymore, and Nate on some level knows that. What he is going to do with that knowledge is the part that worries me, because men like Nate do not accept irrelevance quietly. Now let's talk about Nate's situation in Euphoria Season 3, Episode 7 more directly, because even if his storyline this week is being framed around something as seemingly mundane as a city council battle, the context around it tells a much darker story. Nate is not fighting the city council from a position of power or civic engagement. He is fighting it because everything else has already collapsed. The money is gone or going. His marriage to Cassie existed in name only before she walked away from it. His father has never been a source of stability, only ever a source of damage. And Naz's people are still a presence in his life, a pressure that has been mounting with every episode. The image of Nate from earlier this season, the empty bottles, the fast food, the voicemail full of desperation, that was not a man who had a plan. That was a man in freefall. And in episode 7, with the title Rain or Shine hanging over everything, the question becomes what Nate does when the rain finally arrives and there is nowhere to take cover. The city council detail is interesting because it suggests Nate is trying to do something through legitimate channels, trying to fight something in a way that does not involve the manipulation and control that he has always fallen back on. And there is something both admirable and heartbreaking about that, depending on how you read it. Maybe it represents growth, maybe it represents desperation, maybe it represents both at the same time, which is usually where the most interesting things happen in this show. But whatever it means in terms of Nate's internal state, the practical reality is that city councils do not solve debts to dangerous people. They do not fix the kind of damage that has been accumulating in Nate's life this season. And the further the show pushes him into a corner with no good options, the more it feels like it is building towards something that will be loud and irreversible, and painful in ways that affect more than just him. Jules in Euphoria Season 3, Episode 7 is the storyline that I think a lot of people might underestimate this week because it is being framed around something that sounds relatively contained, which is Lexi asking her to create an original painting for LA Nights. But I want to push back on the idea that this is a small or secondary storyline, because I actually think it might be one of the most emotionally significant things happening in the entire episode. And here is why. Jules has spent the better part of this season in a kind of emotional and creative suspension. She gave up art school. She gave up the pursuit that made her feel like herself. She moved into a comfortable situation that provides stability, but not genuine connection, and she has been existing inside that arrangement like somebody waiting for something to happen, rather than somebody actually living. The painting that Lexi is asking her to create is the first time this season that Jules has been specifically asked to make something. Not to perform, not to be available, not to fill a role someone else has designed for her, to create something of her own. And I think for Jules, that is going to be far more terrifying than it sounds. The last time Jules put something real of herself into her art, the criticism she received cut deeply enough that she abandoned the entire pursuit. That level of vulnerability, making something genuine and offering it up to be seen and evaluated, is exactly the kind of thing that Jules has been running away from this season. She traded that vulnerability for comfort, for a version of life that does not ask very much of her emotionally, because the stakes feel lower. But Lexi's request in episode 7 is asking her to go back to that place, to take the risk of making something that actually matters, for a show that